Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Coming to you early on Wednesday morning, pardon me. First time I've spoken today. Actually had a message yesterday from a Boneyard listener that said, hey, Steve, we're evacuating today. And if you could have the Boneyard up early tomorrow, that would be helpful. As we're probably going to be on the road for a while as we're trying to get out ahead of the storm. Hurricane Milton appears to be a potentially catastrophic event that is barreling down on the western coast of the great state of Florida. You may not know this, but my oldest daughter lives on the east coast of Florida. And storm is supposed to pass directly over them. And so it's something that many of people that we love are dealing with. Of course, Audrey and her folks won't have to deal with the storm surge, and so many are. But we have some people connected to us through my book publisher that live and work in Tampa. Our friend Bob Carskadden is in the greater Tampa area, and Bob texted this morning to say that he was headed inland. And so, we love Bob. Bob is our friend. Many of you know Bob. And Bob and I are in a group text with several other friends. And we've encouraged him to seek shelter and to evacuate the greater Tampa area. And again, news this morning that he is headed inland. I know many of you care about Bob and love Bob. And so I wanted to share that with you. But to be honest with you, it's been difficult to sleep. It has been, and so I thought, you know what? Let me go ahead and get up and get the show done, and provide some measure of distraction for people that are facing some incredible circumstances in Florida. Now, if there is any good news with this storm, and there's not much, is that it is expected to pass over the peninsula of Florida and then go back out to sea. We've got some folks up in the Carolinas that are really struggling. The last thing that they need, is more torrential rain. Of course, they'll get some, but hopefully it's not nearly as substantial as what they saw last week, as that area has been absolutely inundated and the ground now super saturated with moisture. So if you are in the sound of my voice and you can still safely evacuate, we encourage you to do so. Hurricane Milton expected to make landfall sometime tonight at or around the Tampa area. I think Port St. Lucie, is the most recent expected landfall destination. But this is not something to play with. It's absolutely not something to play with. And, one of the gentlemen that's connected with my book publisher has said he's, worried about looting and worried about all the things that go along with all this stuff. And the thing that I will tell you, we lived in Baton Rouge during Katrina, so we didn't have to deal with the storm surge and all that. And then people forget that the storm actually, passed, it was through Waveland, Mississippi. And we had all the issues in New Orleans. And then, of course, many of those people evacuated and had to be rescued and sent to Baton Rouge. And so it was a very difficult circumstance. A lot of high winds and tornadic activity in the greater Baton Rouge area. And I don't know that South Louisiana is still recovered in some respects. A lot of things have changed. And certainly on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, a lot has changed. And so this is going to be, or expected to be, comparable to what we saw with Katrina, if not potentially worse. And so I just want to say, we love you. And I cannot begin to imagine the stress and anxiety that so many people are feeling today. I mean, you plant some roots and you build a family and you begin to accumulate some stuff, and you have a home there. Now all of a sudden something really beyond your control is barreling down on you and all the things that you have built and amassed in your life, and you're facing the loss of that and the loss of your way of living. Because there are going to be people without work and without power, without income, for a while. And so I'm not going to sit here and politicize my thoughts about the federal government and their responses and things of that nature. But the thing that I have learned about life is that our greatest reliance is on each other and on the higher power, who I choose to call God. And thoughts and prayers will only get you so far too. You got to do your part. That's one of the things that I have learned over the years, is that God will do for you what you cannot do for yourself, but not one thing more. There's things that we have to do for ourselves, and I think fleeing harm's way is one of them. It reminds me of a story I heard years ago, and I'll share this with you, and then we'll get into some talk about Georgia. There was a guy that had a lot of faith, and situations such as this. It's like, the storm was rolling in, and he decided to kind of ride out the storm at his own property. And a boat came by, and he was on his roof. And he goes, "Hey, get in the boat, man. Get in the boat. We got to save you. We got to get you out of here." And he goes, "No, I know that my faith will sustain me. God will not abandon me." And they came back a little bit later, and he was on the apex of his roof. And he goes, "Man, this is the last chance for the boats, man. We can't come back. It's not safe. Get in the boat." He goes, Nope. I'm going to rely on my faith. I know that God will not abandon me." A little bit later, a helicopter came, and the man was standing on his chimney. They sent the ladder down to him and says, "Grab the ladder, we'll pull you to safety." And he goes, No, I know that God is going to sustain me. Well, the man drowned. And so he gets to heaven, and he goes, "God, I placed all my faith and trust in you. Why didn't you rescue me? Why didn't you sustain me through all this?" And God told him, "I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter." And so I kind of see it the same way as this. It's like, it's just stuff. And I know you can't save everything. I always encourage people to grab pictures and things like that. That's why it's so important to digitize all that stuff. So you've got it, stored in a cloud or some online storage service or something like that. Pictures of your kids growing up and things like that, because you don't always think about that sort of stuff at times like these. You grab the bare essentials and you just, you get out of there with your family. And at the end of the day, that's really all we have is our family. Our friends and our family. And, of course, there's some friends out there that are family you choose, But at the end of the day, you probably got homeowners insurance. And I know it's going to be a pain. I know it's going to be so much that you can't replace. So many items of nostalgia and memorabilia of your own life that you just can't bring with you. And you begin to think about it, having to replace those things. And much of that is priceless. It's immeasurable, the value that it means to your life. But at the end of the day, it's about your life and those you love. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to you. Our support goes out to you. This is, I guess some small way that I could maybe perhaps offer, our love for you and for the challenges that you face in the days ahead. Hey, let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I love Bulldog Burger Company. I have for a long time. In fact, I probably love them first. I told you guys before, I think Hey Dad and I were among the first 500, 600 customers to ever frequent that establishment. And I was blown away from the very first time, but I sat down in there. I said, you know what, this place is going to make it. And it has. It's thrived. It's built a little bit of a hamburger empire here in our state. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Let me encourage you, too, if you want to be the favorite aunt or the favorite parent or grandparent, you got some college students here in Starkville going to school at Mississippi State. Maybe you got some down around MC. I don't know where your people are. Maybe they're at Etowamba. But maybe invest in some Bulldog Burger Company gift cards. That's a great Christmas gift idea as well. And I like to get the Eat With Us gift cards because it gives me the ability to eat at Harvey's or Sweet Pepper's Deli or The Grill and Bulldog Burger Company. But I suspect many of the young people in your life will prefer Bulldog Burger Company. Not that there aren't great things to eat for young people at those other establishments, but I think it's important, that, hey, a night out with friends or perhaps a date night, maybe you're paying for that. That's a cool thing. There are a lot of uses for your money out there, probably not money as well spent as that, to give somebody else a great experience, and that's what they're going to have at Bulldog Burger Company. Get the spring rolls, as we mentioned, but find your own favorites. And again, I'm kind of riding a smokehouse. I'm a Bryant fan too, but I'm kind of getting a hankering for the pimentology add bacon because that'll put some hair on your chest. Not that I need it, but you understand my point there. It's a great hamburger. Get that chocolate shake to go. You'll be glad you did. Ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, let's look ahead here at Georgia. No surprise, man. Georgia has been absolutely outstanding. To me, it was a surprise that Alabama beat them. And then the fact that Alabama went out and lost to Vanderbilt. To me, listen, I understand how people feel about these things. To me, it says something about coaching and leadership. When you beat Georgia, a team that was ranked number 2 in the country, you were 4, and you escalate or elevate to number 1, and then you go and lose to Vanderbilt, a team you hadn't lost to in 40 years. That's it. To me, that's coaching and leadership. I think Georgia's going to be just fine. Georgia began the year with a 34-3 win over Clemson in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The game was not close. Could have been worse. Week 2 brought Tennessee Tech, the Golden Eagles. We still are fans of the Golden Eagles for their NCAA baseball team several years ago that went to Oxford and won the regional. 48-3 winners were the Georgia Bulldogs. And then they go to Kentucky, and what a weird game it was. And that's what Mark Stoops and those guys do. They make you play, they dictate terms to you. Even when they can't win, they make it weird. They made it weird, and Georgia wins 13-12. A lot of people, you look at that game and say, you know what, maybe Kentucky's better than we thought. I don't know if that's the case, at least not offensively. But, again, a weird game, but Georgia kind of survives that. You go to Alabama, and, again, that game was 30-7, man. We're leaving Austin, Texas to go. We got in the car and getting ready to get on the interstate, which took forever. I won't go through that again. But it felt like this game was over. That's how it felt. And then lo and behold, Georgia comes back and takes the lead, and Alabama gets it back. And then, of course, Georgia had a chance to tie it late, and they're unable to do so. So Alabama wins 41-34. And then last week, Georgia bounces back at home and takes care of Auburn 31-13. I don't think they covered, but they get the win. And it really wasn't a game that there was much anxiety about. And, again, I think things in Auburn are not great. But 14-3 game at the break, and then both teams had a touchdown there in the third, and Georgia just kind of puts them away there in the fourth, 31-13. But it's been an interesting year for them. But I think if you're Georgia, save 1 or 2 possessions out there, you feel really good about where you're positioned. Also, some news just yesterday that broke. I don't know if you guys have kept up with this, but Colby Young, wide receiver Colby Young from Georgia, arrested on some interpersonal crimes, accused and now charged with misdemeanor battery and assault of an unborn child. Apparently there was there's a lot of reports out there, but apparently there was a relationship. There was some concern about the relationship. The young lady came by somewhat unannounced, I guess, and then there was an incident, and he is alleged to have picked her up and squeezed her abdomen knowing that she was pregnant, reportedly with his child. And again, details are out there, but again, there's 2 sides to every story at the very least. But as of yesterday, Coach Kirby Smart said, can't discuss it. It's a pending legal matter, but he is not with us right now. So the expectation is that he will not play. I can't imagine they get this resolved between now and Saturday. But, Colby's a senior guy, a guy that they were expecting to do some big things. Got a couple touchdowns to his credit. But, this Georgia offense has had some ups and downs this year. and we're hoping for some downs. But interesting, there have now been 7 Georgia players arrested this calendar year, and I guess that's for 2024, because it seemed like they had some last year toward the end of the year too. But 5 of those 7 have been vehicular in nature, and then the other 2, of course, Ra Thomas, his second run-in with the law since he transferred from Mississippi State, and both of those involved other people, and he was dismissed. And again, you look at this situation here and you begin to ask yourself, is this a career-ending type thing? Well, I can tell you this, that I don't know what aspirations Colby Young has beyond Georgia football. But every job application and every resume that he submits, when that background check's going to be pulled, this is the kind of thing that comes up. And certainly pro football doesn't have a place for this sort of thing, and that's a good thing. There have been some incidences in the past with NFL players that have been absolutely shameful. My honest opinion is, and listen, I get it. Again, there's 2 sides to every story, but if there's evidence that a man has ever put his hands on a woman in anger or in violence, they should lose the right to play professional sports. I don't care how talented they are. I don't care what their background is. I don't care what their motivation was. There are some things in our society we've got to just simply say there is right and there is wrong. This is one of them. That's how I feel about it. You may feel differently. And I'm not going to sit here and say that people don't gaslight you every now and again. That's no excuse to go put your hands on a woman. I was raised by women. I got 4 sisters. I got 2 daughters. And as I have told my girls before, if any man ever puts their hands on them, there will be a trial, and that will be mine. All right, so look at some team numbers here. Georgia averaging. Hey, Bulldog fans, are you fantasy enthusiasts? A lot of people are. I remember those days when we used to do it all by hand and have to wait to the next day to read the box scores to find out who won. Well, Prize Picks does all that work for you. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. That's right. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and just watch your winnings roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Just 4, right? And Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as just 15 minutes. How cool is that? You can have fun. It's a very simple way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code BONEYARD, and you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's promo code BONEYARD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you just play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your own game. How cool is that? Be sure to use the promo code BONEYARD when you download the Prize Picks app. Bulldog fans, if you know me, you know I like a free meal. I like a promo code. I like a great deal. I like to save money whenever I can. But here's the thing. I'm not going to go parade over a bed of hot coals with a pair of gasoline-soaked boxer shorts on to get a deal. It's got to be easy for me, right? And so when Mint Mobile said, hey, we'd love to partner with you guys and give wireless service for just $15 a month, I said, there's no way that's going to work, right? You got to purchase a 3-month plan. I said, you know what? It didn't make any sense to me. It turns out it's really that easy to get wireless service for $15 a month. The longest part of the process is probably going to be the time you spend on hold canceling your other provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are just $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. How cool is that? Again, new customer offer, your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. That's mintmobile.com/boneyard. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/boneyard. There's a $45 upfront payment required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speeds are slower than above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan, and additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. For more information, visit mintmobile.com/boneyard. 32 points a game and allowing just over 2 touchdowns at 14.4. They've scored 160 points, allowed just 72, but it hasn't really been an explosive brand of offense, which I think is interesting, considering how well Georgia recruits. 104 first downs on the year, 61 of them by way of the forward pass. They've allowed, pretty balanced against them. They've allowed 34 rushing first downs and 39 passing, and they've committed 11 infractions that have resulted in first downs for their opponents. But, people are kind of moving the football between the 20s against them, just not always getting in the end zone, making people settle for field goals. All right, looking at they're running 131.6 yards a game, and that seems to be a little bit down from what we've learned to expect from Georgia. They've always been a very physical team, great offensive line. They've had some great backs, been a little bit banged up this year. Opponents are averaging right at 128. So it's basically, it's an even trade there, I guess. 658 yards net for Georgia. They've allowed 642. And if I told you, hey, we can go over there and run it as well as Georgia does, based on what you know about them historically, you'd say, you know what, hey, we're going to be in the ballgame. I don't know if that's the case, but I do think there are some plays that Mississippi State can make in the running game. We're going to need Johnny Daniels and Davin Booth to have a big ball game. The passing numbers, and again, it's interesting when you look at these things too. I mean, as you look up there and say, okay, it's right at 290 yards a game. But it's kind of been propped up by just a couple of games. 116 completions, 173 attempts, and 3 interceptions against a dozen touchdowns. Opponents, again, have mostly trailed Georgia, so you'd think they'd throw it a little bit more. They just hadn't been successful doing so. 125 attempts, 80 completions, but just the 2 picks and just 2 touchdowns. Again, moving it between the 20s, not able to kind of cash in there. Depth of target for Georgia's 8.3. Depth of target for their opponents, 6.78. So nearly 6.8 there. So, again, some of this is run after the catch type stuff, but passing numbers for them, they've netted 1,449 yards and allowed us 848. That Georgia secondary is always going to be elite. It's just kind of how it feels. And they always should be when you consider how well they recruit nationally. It's not just a regional program anymore. That's the thing under Mark Richt. I mean, they would kind of spot recruit nationally, but they were primarily a Georgia, Florida, and kind of up into the Carolinas every now and again. But Kirby Smart has really elevated that program. And as Jeff Levy said on Monday, that's the standard everybody else is chasing. Georgia's run 317 plays this year. Their defense has faced 296. They've just been more efficient in what they do. Georgia, 421 yards per game of offense, but giving up around 300. And you start beginning to look at that, too. You think total offense. If we could go over there and put up 300-plus yards against them, you'd feel like State would be in the ballgame. That's how you'd feel, right? I just don't know if it works out that way. They've been very efficient when scoring, 20 touchdowns on the year, and allowed just 6 offensive touchdowns. That's tough, man. It is. And I think we've got the athletes in the secondary that if we can make a play and break a tackle, we got a chance to make some things happen. Kickoff average has been really good for them. I say really good for them, but it's about 19. I don't know if you know this. Mississippi State actually doing really well in kickoff returns this year. I don't know if you knew that. It's true. It's true. Punt return average for them, 8.27 yards, and then they're allowing -4. So really good punt coverage for Georgia. They hadn't had to punt a whole lot. But, just the one punt. Yeah, so that ends up being a -4. So more fair catches than anything else. But, again, not a ton of punts for them. Averaging 47.71 yards a punt. That's impressive. Yeah, opponents are averaging 41. We got a little practice there. And I think special teams have been pretty good for Mississippi State. With that one rare exception, we missed a field goal earlier this year. But they're 7 of 7 from field goals. Opponents are 9 of 10. Again, that's where most of the scoring opportunities have come from against this Georgia defense is by way of the field goal. Georgia has kind of shot themselves in the foot, though, with penalties. averaging 75 yards a game and penalties. Opponents just 40. But 38 infractions that have been marked off. That's not counting ones that were declined. So they have not been maybe as disciplined as you would expect a program of Georgia's stature to be. Time of possession is pretty much even. And it's interesting, a lot of people say, even Leach used to say time of possession is the most overrated statistic in football. But when you see what Vanderbilt did to Alabama last week, and you saw what Kentucky did to Ole Miss the week before, there's something to that. You know, it's about scoring. Scoring average matters most. But, you know, when you're playing an explosive offense and you can kind of control the clock and put a lot of pressure on them and keep their offense on the sidelines, that's a good thing. Georgia offense converting 37% of their third downs. They've allowed right at 35%. Fourth down conversion, Georgia is 8 of 9, and then 3 of 7 for their opponents. Georgia has fumbled the football 6 times, but they've only lost it once. They've forced 6 fumbles and only recovered 2 of those. 11 sacks of Georgia quarterbacks. Georgia defense just 7. Perfect on PATs, both Georgia and their opponents. Red zone attempts. When Georgia gets down close, they make it count. 20 of 21 on the year. 15 of those 20 scores have been touchdowns. And you look at the offensive side of things for their opponents, only 11 trips to the red zone, so nearly half of what Georgia has done. And again, some of that's quality of competition. But only 9 red zone scores and only 3 of those touchdowns. You know, so pretty significant. Now, you remember, against Texas, they had not allowed a red zone touchdown all year until Michael Van Buren scored late against him. My hope is, that we found something with Mike and his ability to move the chains with his feet. Now, former Florida Gator Trevor Etienne is the leading rusher for Georgia. And 5 games into the season, he's averaging 75 yards a game. You probably expected a little bit more from that. A net of 300 yards on the year and 3 touchdowns. Nate Frazier has been kind of the Batman, the Robin to Etienne's Batman. Both of those guys have missed a game. And he's 151 yards. Branson Robinson, former Germantown Maverick, finally healthy, but down the depth chart a little bit. Has played in all 5 games, 22 carries for just 61 yards and a couple touchdowns. That's a long of 13. And when you back that out, it's 21 carries for just 48 yards. So not a lot going on. And that offensive line has been a little bit banged up too. And so that they have not been running at the same proficiency that we usually expect to see. Wide receiver Dylan Bell's been part of the running game too. 4 carries, 54 yards, along of 27. But again, this is a team that is kind of predicated on running the football and stopping the run, and they have not been as good as you might expect. Carson Beck is really, and I hate to use the term game manager, but that's pretty much what he is. It's like, we don't need you to go win the game for us, just don't lose it. 5 games played, 106 of 161, 3 picks against 12 touchdowns, right at 66% completion percentage, and that's been a real issue for Mississippi State. We can't just sit here and let him dictate terms to us. 271 yards a game. Gunnar Stockton's played in a couple of games just to kind of get some reps there. Arian Smith has been the leading receiver, and they've done this pretty much by committee. 18 grabs, 278 yards, a couple touchdowns. Dominic Lovett, 22 grabs, 252 yards. And then there's Dylan Bell. We discussed him. A guy they do involve in the running game a little bit too. 18 grabs for 216 and 3 touchdowns. Leads the team with 3 touchdown receptions. Colby Young, the aforementioned Colby Young, the 4th most prolific receiver on this team, but just 11 grabs. So just a couple catches per game, 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, Lawson Lucky is a tight end. They seem to be really excited about him. Of course, when you lose a Mackey Award winner, you don't get better. Just 7 catches for him, 135 yards, a couple touchdowns. But he is a bit of a weapon. He spoke with the media yesterday. Said that he thought the Mississippi State defense, showed some promise. And I think that our showing against Texas defensively probably has Georgia's attention. Trevor Etienne also with 11 catches out of the backfield for 72 yards. But again, it's not an offense you look at and say, you know what, hey, there's a lot to write home about here. It just really hadn't been the case. Georgia defense, traditionally very, very good. C.J. Allen leads the team, tied for the team lead with 26 tackles. Dan Jackson has played in 5 games too and has 26 tackles himself, 20 of them of the solo variety. Dan Jackson, a redshirt junior safety out of North Hall High School in Gainesville, Georgia. Maybe you're familiar. But an interesting group, to say the least. But again, you look up and down these numbers here, and there's not anybody that just really jumps out. And again, just 2 interceptions for this Georgia defense. So they haven't really been opportunistic. Pass breakups, it's always been kind of a staple, just 13. And of course, they're not getting the same number of opportunities as their opponents, but not a ton. And then you begin to look at the quarterback hurries here. Just six hurries and, 11 sacks. So maybe not as good as they have been, but there's still some dudes on that defense. But I think there's some opportunities to make some plays here. I don't think State wins this game. I do think State has the opportunity to cover, and we'll see how that goes, what the line looks like when it's all said and done. And again, hopefully the weather will be long gone by the time that we get there. Maybe some rain in the Athens area on Thursday and potentially on Friday. Looking at special team stuff here, and I think that's one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show because of the fact, we feel like we can make some plays in a return game. And Brett Thorson has been outstanding for them as a punter, long of 58 yards, 6 fair catches, 3 touchbacks. 10 of his 17 punts have been inside the 20. He has 7 of 50 plus. That's getting it done right there. Peyton Woodring is the kicker, and he has been perfect on the year in every attempt. That includes the extra points and the field goals there. So, really good job there. So, very sound in the kicking game. Kickoffs. 31 attempts for Peyton Woodring and only 15 touchbacks. And one of them's been out of bounds too. So about half of those kicks have been returnable. And so maybe State can kind of shorten the field a little bit. Charlie Hamm's got a couple of kicks as well and only 1 touchback. So again, about half the times that they kick off, it's a touchback. The other half of the time, it's returnable. And so that ratio maybe doesn't match the esteem maybe you have for Georgia. And so perhaps there are some plays to be made in the return game for Mississippi State. I hope that's the case, But, looking at some of these numbers here, it's just, again, you look at it, hey, this is the number 5 team in the country, but they haven't been as dominant, I think, as they expected. And some of that's because of the fact they've had some offensive linemen kind of beat up here. But, again, you look at this, look at the numbers here. Outside of Alabama, nobody has scored more than 13 points in a game against them. And even last week against Alabama, maybe you begin to ask yourself, maybe this Alabama defense is just not very good. And they give up a ton of points to Georgia, and you'd expect that, and give up a ton of points to Vanderbilt. You wouldn't expect that. And so, maybe the offensive explosion in that game against Alabama by Georgia really maybe has more to do with the fact that this Alabama defense just isn't great. Maybe they're just good. Because you look at what Georgia's done offensively, against other programs in recent weeks. We mentioned 13 points against Kentucky, 31 against Auburn. But again, a lot of that came late. They're kind of salting the game away, trying to get a little separation, just to kind of have some breathing room. And again, this Auburn team's 2-4 and 0-3 in the conference. But I look at these numbers in this game against Auburn. It was pretty evident that they wanted to go out and try to establish the running game. And they went with a net of 141. Auburn ran for 137. You look at the offensive numbers here. I mean, the total offense was really, not a big disparity. Auburn put up 337 yards. Georgia just 381. And you look at the score, it's 31-13. They're just a lot more efficient in what they do. And so you got to force them into some mistakes in order for State, I think, to really have a chance to kind of keep this thing close, because we're not going to sit here and expect State to win this game. But can we go down there and make this thing entertaining? Can we make this thing competitive? I think, yes, we do. I think we can. I think it's going to be a game probably similar to what we see against Texas. I think it'll be a competitive game for 3 quarters, and eventually I think the talent differential favors Georgia, and probably that fourth quarter they kind of put us away. But I'm eager to get down there and go cover the ball game. And I've covered baseball at Georgia. I've never covered a football game at Georgia, so this is one I'll knock off my bingo card. Eager to do that. But once we get through this one, you start looking. Okay, listen. Not going to be many games Mississippi State's favor the rest of the way, but if we can get through this, this difficult stretch, and we knew it would be, it's like it's already a tough thing, and then you got to go play at Texas and then at Georgia, both of those top 5 teams when you face them, and of course now Texas is the number 1 team in the country. You start looking at this and start thinking maybe there's some games that are a bit more manageable, but I think you can grow up a little bit here. You start thinking, hey, we went down there and we played Texas, really hard for 3 quarters. And, of course, it was the last play of the third quarter that made that game have some separation. It was a 1-score game. And maybe you go down there and give Georgia all they want. Then all of a sudden you got A&M coming in. You got Arkansas coming in. UMass coming in. So 3 home games in a row after this. And then you got to go to Knoxville. And then Missouri, and you head to Oxford, and then the season's over. But we're right here, this will be the halfway point. But I think it's about, hey, let's just kind of build this thing up as best we can and show people that we have some grit and some fight. One thing I know for sure, Jeff Lebby is not going out there to play this thing close. They're not going to go out there and just try to control the clock and just try to prevent a blowout in this game. They're going out there with a game plan to try to win. That's who Jeff Lebby is. And we've had some guys in the past, I think games like these that were more endured than enjoyed. Mike Leach took a team down there with 48 players in 2020 and should have won the ball game. So we'll see how things progress. But it'll be interesting to see, kind of what we do with Mike Van Buren. Do we roll the pocket? Do we simplify the reads a little bit? Because this Georgia defense is going to be on par with Texas, if not a little bit better, when it's all said and done. But, Georgia has been a house of horrors for us. Sanford Stadium has not been a great place for us over the years. And as you guys have heard me mention, we've won 6 games in our history. And Dave Murray did the math. The only SEC opponent that we have played with less frequency than Georgia, of the long-standing opponents, is Vanderbilt. Of course, Ole Miss had them as a permanent opponent. Make of that what you will. But we played them. We win 2 of the first 3 trips to Athens, and it has been a long time since we have won in Athens. A long time. We won a couple times in Jackson, and of course we won in Starkville. We have not won in Athens since 1956. We won 19-7. And again, some of that's because of the fact we hadn't played there a whole lot, but it also, too, just kind of shows the difference in the programs. I remember in 97, we felt pretty good about our team that year, and we go down there and Robert Edwards just runs all over us, and we get beat 47-0. And then, the next, series of games were ultimately pretty competitive. That 17 game, that was the year that everybody said, hey, Mississippi State may be the second best team in the Southeastern Conference, and they open up with a flea flicker against Todd Grantham's blitz-happy defense and never really looked back. I mean, that game essentially was over before the half. But I harken back to that 2020 team. If we go out there and play the team and not the logo, we got a chance to be competitive in this game. But again, I expect Georgia to win the game, and I think it'll be a game that'll be competitive for probably 2.5, maybe 3 quarters. And I think their talent differential will be the difference when it's all said and done. All right, time for today's top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Blair is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. I mean, you get older in life and you begin to realize, hey, I need a banker. I need a mortgage loan originator, I need a tire guy, there's so many things out there that you need in life that maybe you don't realize when you're younger, It's true. And you learn in time, there are some individuals out there that can take care of you. I know we had a great real estate agent. She was amazing. We moved to Starkville. It was great. Great mortgage people too. And so the reality of it is it can be a fun experience. The end result's what you're looking for, right? You're like, hey, I just want to find a great place to live, a great place to raise my family, a great place to put some roots. And Blair Chandler can help you do that. He can be your advocate with underwriting. 23 years of experience in the industry. It's no joke, man. Hit him up today. 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. Maybe you're just starting out in life. You're thinking, what, Steve, I want that starter house. I want a condo. I want something to kind of avoid throwing my money away on the hamster wheel of renting. Yeah, I'm making somebody else rich. I want to build some equity. I want to make a grown man's decision, a grown woman's decision, a grown person's decision. Well, do what the grown folks do. They work with Blair Chandler. Again, 601-500-2344. A Mississippi State guy through and through. Has a place here in town, a season ticket holder, multiple sports. I love to keep business in the family whenever we can. That's exactly what you can do here. He has closed several Boneyard loans. It's the reason he's still with us. Yeah, it's been a great partnership. That's Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com. Okay, I got a little curious. I did some research. Couldn't find out that there was already some list out there. The list is not very extensive. And it's songs that went number one for two different artists. And I kind of got thinking about that yesterday when I was finishing up the Otis Redding list. It's like, hey, Otis Redding wrote a great song called Respect, but it was a huge hit for Aretha Franklin. I was thinking, how many people out there have kind of traded on that, right? How many people have taken a great song and made it better, or at least had, comparable success? I love a good cover. I do. And so this is kind of a twist on that. So again, songs that went number one for two different artists. Because a lot of songs out there that are covered that were kind of obscure, or maybe they were a hit decades ago. Kind of change it up a little bit. But so here we go. The number ones for two different artists. And number 10, and I kind of rank these two like as a couplet. Like if I really like both versions, the more I like them both, the better the ranking wise. Now, I love the original. I did not care for the cover, but it was a big hit, and it was because of the nostalgia, right? So number 10 on our list is Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley. Now, back in the 80s, it was covered by a reggae band, UB40. They had a big hit with Red, Red Wine. They really weren't that great, but there was a little bit of a novelty appeal to all of them because there wasn't a lot of that stuff played on pop radio. I didn't really care for it, but it was a big hit, so we have to include it on our list. Number 9, You Keep Me Hanging On from the Supremes. Diana Ross and the Supremes. How many number one hits did they have? It's ridiculous. Well, Kim Wilde covered this song and also had a number one hit with it. Number 9 for us. Number 8, and this one I kind of prefer the cover version. It's kind of a unique marriage too. It's the Locomotion with Little Eva, and then Grand Funk Railroad covered it. Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do the Locomotion. You do it with me. Number 7, a more recent one. And what's interesting, too, the original version, the original release from Simon and Garfunkel, it wasn't a big hit, but all of a sudden it kind of caught life later. We're talking The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, and this here a couple years ago. Disturbed, David Draymond of Disturbed, they cover this and have a huge hit with it. You talk about a weird marriage. You know the Supremes and Grand Funk. I would venture to say that David Draymond and Disturbed with Simon and Garfunkel is equally as weird. Number 6. I love this song. I love the video. I love these ladies. I do. I love them. I had a huge crush on each of these three at different various times in their careers. But the original of Venus was recorded by Shocking Blue, and it was made more popular later by Bananarama. Yeah, love Bananarama. Loved to look at them. Very talented, very beautiful, very entertaining, and they still get together every now and again and play shows. But yeah, I'm Your Venus. And remember the bedeviled heroine in that video? You know, they're like dancing around all of a sudden, there's a woman that's the devil, you know, with the horns and everything. It's a wild video. I may watch it again later today. All right, number 5. I love this song when it first hit the scenes. I mean, I'm a child of the 70s. It's Lady Marmalade by LaBelle, and of course it was covered by Christina Aguilera and Pink and I guess Lil' Kim, I think. But it was a super collaboration there, and it was great. I thought Christina Aguilera was amazing on that song. I know she doesn't have as many fans maybe as she should. I think she's very talented. She's a much better singer than Britney Spears, and I know that I'm kind of dipping my toe in some controversy there. And I don't know what's going on with Brett these days. Every so often I see these videos making the rounds, and whatever's wrong in her life, I hope they get it fixed. All right, number 5. Pardon me as I yawn there. I didn't know the full story behind this, but I remember Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner working together. You know, they would be on all kinds of different shows, the Grand Ole Opry and Hee Haw and things like that. And Porter Wagoner used to have that great red denim suit. Maybe we should bring that back. Maybe we should all start wearing like off-colored denim suits. Do you think we could pull that off? Maybe put on those big black belts, maybe some black boots, some bell bottoms, bring that stuff back? Can we do it? Can we work together as a people to bring some of that cool fashion from the 70s back? You see, but Steve, it's back there for a reason. But I think maybe it's time we revitalize that notion. But she wrote this song, Dolly Parton, the Queen. I mean, what a living legend she is. I mean, right? I mean, there's so many people from her era that have passed on or no longer performing, but Dolly's still out doing amazing things. And she recorded I Will Always Love You about Porter Wagoner. And then, of course, Whitney Houston had a huge hit with this. And it was already a well-known song. But her rendition of it, they're both great. The emotion, I think, in Dolly's song is maybe a little more authentic. But the vocal performance of Whitney Houston is, in many respects, unparalleled. One of the best vocal performances, I think, of my lifetime. Loved them both. And, of course, that was on the Bodyguard soundtrack. Great, great, great songs. Number 3, I remember being a radio disc jockey and we used to play this. I remember being a kid hearing this on the radio. It's Bill Withers' Lean on Me. And, of course, Club Nouveau, a bit of a one-hit wonder, they had a hit with it too. And everybody loved it. And, of course, that all came around. Remember the movie, with Morgan Freeman? It was Principal Joe. I can't remember. But anyway, it was based on a true story. Pretty amazing movie. Most everything Morgan Freeman in is great. What a great Mississippian, despite his college allegiances. But, yeah, Bill Withers' Lean on Me is your number 3 track. And, again, we give a shout-out to Club Nouveau. Number 2, I remember being a kid and hearing this thing, too. I remember Percy Sledge coming to Columbia, Mississippi and playing at the Colonial Steakhouse. Like they had like a bar there. And maybe you guys, you Columbia folks remember that. Percy Sledge, it was like the biggest deal. And they had it up on the marquee outside that Percy Sledge was going to be playing there. And I remember my mom just wanting to ride by there just to see the crowd, and it was like there were cars parked everywhere. It's incredible. Little did I know what a big deal Percy Sledge was. And then all of a sudden we started, remember those K-Tel records? Remember that? And it was the big hits of Percy Sledge. You could buy it on cable. Yeah, we've come a long way since then. But Michael Bolton also had a big hit with it. And Michael Bolton, a great performer. True. I don't know that this is his best vocal performance, to be honest with you. And I think maybe it's because of the nostalgia part of it. There's some songs I don't think you mess with, and this is one of them. But I do think Michael did a good job on it. Number one, though. Number one. Going back really before I even really got rolling good. We're going back to the Jackson 5's I'll Be There. And we're going to couple that with Mariah Carey's rendition of that song. And they're both amazing. And I don't know that I could really differentiate between the two as far as which one is my favorite. That's one of the reasons it's number one. I love the Jackson 5 version. I absolutely love it. But then I heard the Mariah Carey version. I'm like, this is great. It's an incredible rendition of a classic American song. I don't know if you could go wrong with this, right? And of course, it won't be long. I guess we're probably, 15 minutes away from All I Want from Christmas Is You. That's a song that goes back to number one every year. It's like the Christmas song. And I'll be honest with you, there are some things that I want for Christmas that aren't you. I'm just saying it. Maybe you see it differently, but maybe a couple of years ago, all I wanted for Christmas was the bride to come home. But we're different people today than we were back then. We're not as pitiful and so down in the dumps. So yeah, my Christmas list this year is going to be a little more lengthy. And the truth of the matter is, we haven't even got the Halloween yet, and Thanksgiving or anything like that. But it's so interesting to me. I watched a video earlier about that sort of thing. And I know this. When I was a kid, you couldn't wait to see what you got for Christmas. When I got to be a teenager, I just wanted cool clothes, right? Cool clothes and CDs. And back, in my early teen years, it was about cassettes. I didn't have a CD player until I was in high school. It was still relatively new technology. And I remember my stepmom saying, I hate to see you get a CD player because now you got to go out and just buy CDs for all those tapes you have. And my tape collection was and remains very extensive. I don't have anything to play it on. But I remember being a kid, and it's like being a teenager. It's like you got that bottle of cologne, you got a cool sweater, maybe a couple pairs of Jabot jeans, maybe get some gift cards to go buy some stuff. It was so exciting. And the older that I got, the more I began to realize, too, that I can buy whatever I need. It's true. I can. I can buy what I need and most of what I want. But I love it when Dana and or the kids do something a little bit different. You know what I mean? They put some thought into it. I don't need Christmas to supplement my wardrobe like I used to when I was much younger. We had a house full of kids. And my mom would, give me a couple of outfits, and I'd be very grateful. That's my work clothes, I mean, you know those feelings, right? But the thing that I love about Christmas, and I get almost embarrassed opening gifts. I do, because I love that Dana shows some thought to this, but I hate that she has to go to trouble for me. And maybe that's a character defect of mine, not being able to receive. I got a friend, my buddy Mark, that lives out in Tulsa. He told me that one day. He goes, dude, stop being a jerk. Learn to accept a gift. And that's true. And I think that's a self-worth thing. But in many respects, the thing that I love is watching my kids and watching Dana open what we've been able to provide for them. And you always hear it's better to give than to receive. And it's the older you get and the more you love, the more you appreciate the ability to do that, to be able to give those people. But before we get to all that, we got to celebrate Halloween, and some of you don't, and that's cool too. I think we've got to stop looking for things to be offended about. But you don't have to participate. But I'll tell you this: when you go to the Fall Festival, you're participating in Halloween. You're just doing it on a different day. I mean, it's just okay. Let's just kind of call it for what it is. Let's don't be hypocrites about it. You're like, well, I don't like wearing the costumes. Well, then don't wear the costume. It's as simple as that. But if you're not going to participate, you're not going to participate. Let's don't go homogenize it and call it something else, and it's still the celebration of Hallows Eve, But I think sometimes we infer a little too much with all that stuff. But again, you live your life as you want to live your life. You raise your kids the way you want to, as long as you're not hurting them. And, you're getting no judgment from me. I'm not in any position to judge anybody. But I'll tell you this. If you want me to be honest with you, if I tell you that you're a horse, you may want to go shop for a saddle. So we'll see how things play out. But, I'm excited about the holidays. I'm excited it's getting a little bit cooler, too. Yeah, I've said many times before, if anything ever drives me out of Mississippi, it's going to be these ridiculous summers. But, I like walking out this morning, man, a little chill in the air. Kind of like that. It's almost blue jean and leather jacket wearing weather. That's my era right there. And we don't all look good in shorts. Let's just kind of call it for what it is. I got a lot of artwork on my legs, so I kind of get a chance to show that off. But, we don't all look good in shorts. And I think it's important for us to kind of understand that. And then not everybody's looking to make a fashion statement with their shorts. But I think one of my favorite parts of the year is a blue jean and leather jacket weather, which also means that we have the long sweaters and the knee boots and all that goes with that. The hats, the wonderful hats. Ladies, we love you. We do. We love your fashion sense. And a lot of people look forward to summer because, it's swimwear season. I kind of like the fall. I like fall fashion. I do. That's my feeling about it. Maybe you feel differently, but to each their own. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samante, who is on vacation, got caught up with our list yesterday. You can find him on his Twitter account and mine, but he tweets them out at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. You can find our great list on Spotify with the same handle. Just hit subscribe. All right, you're already a subscriber to Spotify. You're just going to follow Roy and have our list come. And trust me, many of you need our expertise. And we are more than happy to provide that for you. It is a service that we do, and Roy does it for free. He always jokes at me, "Hey, I think I've earned this vacation. Well, you go ahead and take it, son. You go ahead and have a good time." Roy travels. I travel extensively too, but I think Roy gets out. When Roy does it, I go out and cover the game at Tempe. So I fly in on Friday, spend the day on Saturday, cover the game, get up early Sunday morning and fly back. Roy goes to Tempe and then to Vegas and then to LA to watch an NFL game. And, it's like when he goes, he gets his money's worth. It's a work trip for me. I have a good time when we go, but I don't get to recreate like Roy does. But I'm glad that Roy has a chance to get out and go do that. And, big fans of them. And Missy, his wife, recently had a birthday, and they recently celebrated their anniversary. So if you know Roy and Missy Samante, maybe send them some belated anniversary tidings. Wouldn't that be great? And thanks as always to Roy for what he does for the show. All right, next segment brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love Campus Bookmart. I do. I love going in there. I wish I had more money in my pocket when I went because I would buy one of everything, at least. The best apparel for Mississippi State fans can be found at Campus Bookmart. Whether you're looking for a wedding gift, a graduation gift, just something for that little knick-knack area in the house that has been unclaimed, right? Everything that you need Mississippi State related, you can find at Campus Bookmart. If you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, let me encourage you to visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR. That stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. All right, let's talk about a few other things. All right, so Mississippi State soccer up to number 4 in the country. How about that? Number 4 in the country in both polls and number 3 in the RPI. Allie Perry, the recent NIL ambassador for True Rest Float Spa, your co-offensive player of the week, had 2 goals against LSU, 1 goal against Arkansas. Maddie Anderson, your SEC defensive player of the week. And you shut out the number 1 team in the country. You shut out the most prolific offense in women's college soccer, and you're going to get a Player of the Week accolade, no question about it. Now the Bulldogs are back in action on Thursday evening at 5:30 Central. Now, with the weather and that massive storm out there, there could be a change in the schedule. Could be. We'll see how things progress. Now, the Bulldogs will be back home in action Sunday night on our pitch against Missouri at 6:30. I don't know if you've kept up with this stuff at all, and maybe you should. And if you haven't, I'll help you with it. The Bulldogs doing some good things, as you guys are well aware. We have to keep it going, though, right? That's the main thing. It's like everything that we've done so far is great, but we have to keep it going. Of course, State's in a great position to host right now. And you look at your standings, State tied with Arkansas with 12 points. You say, but Steve, how is that possible? Well, you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and no points for a loss. Well, Arkansas has played one more game than us. We're 4-0, they're 4-1. So we have the same number of points because we have the same number of wins. So we pick up a dub. The next time we get a dub, we'll pull ahead. The schedule works itself out. Now, just behind us with 10 conference points is Auburn. Texas A&M then with 9, Georgia with 8. And, of course, we play Georgia Thursday night. They are 2-1-2 in the conference, 6-3-4 overall. It is a game that we expect to win. They did take a 2-0 decision from Oklahoma over the weekend. And then Tennessee with 8, South Carolina with 7. Now, South Carolina just, wasn't too long ago, South Carolina was tied with Mississippi State and Arkansas. And that's a game that we had that was postponed due to weather. Texas is 7 points with them. Kentucky 6, LSU 6, Alabama 4, Florida 4, Missouri 4. They're 1-3-1 in the conference and 3-7-12 overall. So, yes, that should be a game we should win. I believe that's the fewest number of overall wins in the Southeastern Conference, and it is. So that should be a dub. We should get both of these this week, assuming both are played. You may wonder, I haven't mentioned Ole Miss, dead last in the conference, no points. They're 0-5 in the SEC. We play at Oxford next week in the Magnolia Cup. We've kind of dominated that series as of late. That should continue. Now, looking at Mississippi State's schedule, and we've talked a little bit about this, it's all rather interesting. The schedule is going to be over before you know it. They do this fragmented schedule where you play, some games in the spring and then some games in the fall. We began our season back on August the 9th. We put an exhibition, before that. But yeah, just 2 games. 2 goals scored against us on the entire year. And you get through this week, and again, you're going to have to make up that South Carolina game. We hear that's probably going to happen the week before the SEC tournament. But Georgia on Thursday, 5:30. You can watch that on your ESPN app. I know many of you watched the soccer game for the first time in your lives when State beat Arkansas. I hope that you're now fans. And in Missouri on Sunday, we go to Oxford, and then we finish up with 2 more regular season games. Kentucky comes here on Thursday, October 24th, and then we go to College Station, Texas for the regular season finale on October 27th. That's going to be a Sunday. And so you start winding this thing down. Currently, 5-game schedule. There will be 6, though. We will get that South Carolina game in. The SEC tournament begins the following Sunday, November the 3rd. And so there is that entire week, Halloween week, we could probably make that game up with South Carolina. You don't want to play 3 in a week. And so not much time left, but also, too, is there anybody on the schedule you look at and say, hey, that team should beat us? Now, any team in the Southeastern Conference can beat you, but probably the toughest game left in the regular season standings is going to be that game at A&M. Again, currently technically fourth in the SEC, but you get a little deeper beyond that. Kentucky with 6, and they've only won 1 SEC game. They're 9-1-3, but they were 1 out of 5 games in Southeastern Conference play. And so you start working through this. We've got a very favorable schedule down the stretch. Very favorable schedule down the stretch. I mentioned, Georgia, not great. Missouri, the fewest wins in the conference. Ole Miss, winless in conference. And then that Kentucky game, Kentucky is 6 points, just a 1 conference win. And so we should be in a position that we should maintain a top 10 RPI and top 10 in the rankings. And so we feel really good about hosting our first round game. And because of how the thing is seeded out, we may get a chance to host the first 2 rounds. We'll see how things go. But the reality of it is there's a lot to feel good about. Now, another thing I want to make you aware of is you're planning your schedule. Many of you plan to be here for the Texas A&M game. Let me give you some incentive to take off work Friday early, okay? You got time, right? You got to get that work done by Thursday because you need to leave early Friday because we're going to have the Junction Jam a week from Friday. It's the Friday before the A&M game. It's free admission. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll give you a time as we get a little bit closer. So that's going to be kind of wrapping up a busy week for us because the men are going to be at SEC Media Day for the men on the 15th, and then the Women's Day is the 16th. And just so you guys are aware of who's going, that's no big surprise there. But for the men, of course, it'll be Josh Hubbard and Cam Matthews along with Coach Chris Jans. And, he'll have a couple hours to kind of talk to everybody. So we'll get plenty of content. Dave Murray will be there for us. And then on Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 12:25, Sam Purcell, Jerkelia Jordan, and DeBrescia Poe. So, again, no real surprises there, but those are the people, the individuals that will be representing Mississippi State over in Hoover or Birmingham for the media day. And then they will come back and we'll have the Junction Jam. And so something cool, and again, something that you need to go ahead and begin preparing for now. Your first look at the Bulldogs. You'll have an opportunity to get pictures and autographs and really anything you want. One of the things that I love about our student athletes and so many of our coaches is they have made these players, teams, and coaches accessible to the fans. And if you think about when we have been at our best, right, especially on the women's side, there were so many of you that would bring number one, you'd come to see the women play because you felt certain we were going to win. But also, too, after the game was over, and I know from spending all those hours in the post-game press area, they would stay and take pictures and sign autographs for everybody that needed it. And I think Victoria coming back, too, she fully understands that aspect of it. And not that Sam and those guys hadn't done a good job with it, but that's when we have really felt connected with that team. And I really feel like when Ben Howland was here, that there was a disconnect between the fans and the players. There was this gulf in many respects. Like you might see them and you might not, but this is an opportunity for you. And come out, have a chance for your kids to get a picture made with Josh Hubbard. Maybe you want a picture with Josh Hubbard. I don't know your needs. I'm not judging. You can wear a Josh Hubbard jersey for all I care. But the reality of it is a great opportunity for you to get your first look at the Bulldogs. On both sides of the basketball ledger. We encourage you to come out and be a part of that. There's so much going on right now. And you know how it goes, man. Once we get into basketball season, it seems like the year wraps up pretty quickly, right? Because we play all these non-conference games, and it seems like there's 2 a week. And a lot of them are in Humphrey Coliseum. We play a lot of those non-conference games aren't home and homes. But we're gonna get ready to play basketball here pretty soon. And then next thing you know, it's Christmas time. We come back from Christmas. SEC play starts on both sides. And then Valentine's Day weekend baseball's here. And then, they're already making the plans now for Super Bulldog weekend. Then we're going to have baseball, spring football, men's basketball, women's basketball all going at the same time. So plenty of reasons to come be a part of our merry band of misfits over at genespage.com. But I'm excited about this. Now, I will not be able to attend the event, but I hope that you guys will be able to come out. Now, we're going to have full coverage of everything going on next week when it comes to basketball, and most of that content will be free. and you can peruse that at your convenience at genespage.com. Even if you're not a subscriber, we want to be your one-stop shop for Mississippi State coverage. There are some things, obviously, that we have to put a VIP label on, because if we have things that nobody else has, well, that's exclusive content. But all the big room stuff is going to be free. And so, again, we encourage you to come out. You won't have to go buy a paper. You don't have to have an online subscription. When there is a press conference or a ball game or something like that, we're going to make that information free for you, the Mississippi State fan, whether you can afford to be a subscriber or not. We want to be your place to come get news. And so that's one of the reasons we get out and go to everything, right? Not to mention, Mississippi State deserves it. You guys deserve it, right? You deserve to have people there that can kind of tell the Mississippi State side of things, because you know how it goes. I got a lot of friends that work at the SEC network, but it's so interesting. It's like we don't get equal billing. And some of that, too, is because we're not winning, right? But even when we have won, we haven't always been given equal billing on the SEC network. So if you're dependent on the network to kind of provide you with that information, sometimes you're going to come up a little bit short. And there's only so much that healthstate.com can do, right? And there's some hardworking individuals on that side of things, but they can't offer opinions. They can't talk recruiting. They can give you a game preview and a game recap, but a lot of times it's kind of bare bones, and that's just kind of the way things are. They're a promotional tool for the university. And so if you want more in-depth coverage, you got to come to genespage.com. Nobody out there covering the Bulldogs like we are. And I'm eager to leave. I think I told you guys on yesterday. I'm leaving Friday, so I'm going to get up and do the show early so I can get on the road, because we're going to be covering Madison Academy as they play a road game just outside of Huntsville, Alabama. So I'll go there, and I'm probably going to go ahead and spend the night there somewhere around Huntsville, because I don't want to be, number one, having to kind of chase a hotel room with so many people evacuating out of Florida, but also, too, I don't want to occupy a room that maybe somebody in Florida that's trying to get out of there because of the storm. So it's no big deal for me to stay there in Huntsville and then just get up the next morning and finish the drive to Athens. But, Dave Murray will be with me, and we'll have full coverage of Mississippi State's game against the University of Georgia. And we look forward to getting back home, too. I love going on the road. I do. And one of the main reasons that I do is getting out and seeing our student athletes, but also, too, having a chance to cover the recruits. And so next Friday, when this Junction Jam thing is going on, I have an author event, because we're going to have books. And if you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com, because we're here now. We're here now. And books will ship out next week, and we'll expect them on or around the 15th. They'll ship out on the 12th, and the warehouse will have them about the 15th, maybe a day early. And then I will drive down to Madison, and we'll sign those books. Now, if you've already ordered, you probably have noticed that your printing label has already been printed. Well, you don't have a book yet, but they're just trying to get as much preparation done so that when the books are there, they'll already have the little mailing label done. They'll have the packaging done, and then all we got to do is sign your books. They'll slip them in. They'll seal them. They'll put them in those nice little totes, and they'll take them to the post office and get those things mailed out. So that's kind of where we are. And you can sure go ahead and order now. Go to dutynoblebook.com, and you can order the book. All books ordered through the website will be signed. And I will be at Book Martin Cafe next Friday for their evening event. So that will preclude me from going to the Junction Jam. But again, we're going to have full coverage there. But all my sports titles also available at dutynoblebook.com, and that's, of course, Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, and When the Bottom Falls. It's not a sports title. And so I lose track sometimes. But, it's an exciting time because a new book is coming out, and so many of you are eager to read it. And I can tell you, I worked harder on this book than I have anything in my life. And that's not to say that I didn't make a mistake somewhere. I'm sure after it gets read through a few times, somebody will say, hey, Steve, you missed this. And you know what? I may have. I was pretty meticulous in the work and did the best that I could. But there are some stories in these books that have seldom been told. And in The Dude, there are some stories that have never been told and some stories that are over 100 years old. And so it's going to be a lot of new material for you about a name that you know well, but you don't know the man well. And I've had a lot of people that have hit me up and say, hey, is this a book about the history of Dudy Noble Field? It is not. This is a biography of Dudy Noble, the man, the legend, the administrator that was here through some very difficult times in Mississippi State's history. Also got some other things coming up too with the university too. You'll see that. But yeah, it looks like the 18th will be a big day too, because we'll have some announcements. So we're working through that now, and I know there's a lot of media people that have reached out trying to get more information about the book, and we'll have that for them. They're doing a big press release. That's a good thing about having those kinds of people, and we will tour rather extensively. Now the good thing is with all these home games coming up, I'm going to be very easy to find if you need to get a book. And so you want to come by and get a picture, say hello, visit a little while, we'll be able to do that for you. But we will have game day signings throughout the rest of the month of October. So Texas A&M weekend, we're doing it Friday night, and I'm sure we'll do something Saturday before the game. And then the same thing with Arkansas. We'll probably do something after the game. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. That's the early window, like 11 to 12. Maybe we go, and sign before the game. We'll see. And then the UMass game's 3:15, so we'll do something before the game then, and we'll announce that here on the show. And then we head to Knoxville, and we come back 2 weeks later, and that'll be the November 23rd game. And so that's the pre-Thanksgiving deal. And then, Black Friday will be here. And so for the month of December, I will be traveling extensively, signing books. And much of that is going to be in the great state of Mississippi. But we'll do some things for baseball weekends too, and probably some big basketball weekends. And I'll be honest with you, our basketball weekends haven't been nearly as successful as our football and baseball weekends. But we're going to do them anyway, because we're going to give you every opportunity to get your books purchased in person. But if you live out of state, or you don't want to mess with any of that, maybe you don't want to meet me, maybe you don't care about that, you just say, Steve, I just need my books because I want to get these for Christmas, go to Dudy Noble Book and you can get those things ordered. Hey, let's thank our friends at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. You can Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and when you do, their Facebook page will come up, and you can kind of peruse through the pictures of all the amenities that are available to you. As mentioned many times, it is just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. So incredibly convenient. You can do your tailgating right there on site, not have to drag all your gear back and forth. I know it's a social event, but sometimes you get interlopers, and this is a chance for you to kind of be with your own people, right? And that's a great thing. It truly is. I enjoy getting out socializing too, but sometimes I don't want to cook for everybody. I like having the opportunity to just kind of be with my family and just kind of enjoy some time together. And so if you're looking for a great place to stay in the Golden Triangle, there is no better place than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. That great full-service kitchen, 5 bedrooms, 2 bath, the big back porch area, the fire pit area. You can sit out there, enjoy a glass of wine or a cold one, and just have some meaningful conversation out there. And, of course, the wet bar is also available to you as well. I love the place. I think you will too, and you're going to be amazed. It's the old renovated clubhouse at the old golf course. Just right off campus. Very, very easy to find. Now, when you Google, you're going to have some booking options that pop up. You can go with Airbnb. You can go with VRBO. All of it's completely up to you. But if you want to save some money, I can help you do that. Book through the Evolve website. And use promo code BSR10. That's BSR and the number 10, 10. That gets you 10% off your stay when you stay at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. So just by listening to this show, you're saving some money. How cool is that? And thanks as always for the support of the great folks at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, I want to get out of here with a couple comments about recruiting. Obviously, you've had Mario Nash decommit. It is a surprise in some respects, and it is very much a disappointment, as we discussed yesterday, too. I mean, it's like, is he going to go to Florida State? You're chasing a logo, right? And a coaching staff probably won't be there. But yeah, it's disappointing. Mississippi State will continue to recruit him. Nobody's going to give up. It's October 9th. But there's some changes in the recruiting calendar, and that's going to change some things too. Maybe you've seen they're abolishing the national letter of intent. And that's one of those things too. It's like everybody signs the financial aid agreement anyway. And so really the national letter of intent essentially in all intents and purposes, has kind of been deemed meaningless anyway. Because of the fact if you sign the financial aid agreement, you're no longer a recruitable athlete within your conference, right? The only protections you had is like if they signed an FAA with us, then another SEC school couldn't recruit them. But until they enroll, they're still a recruitable athlete from other conferences. But I think that there's going to be some rare instances where you have to worry about that. But by and large, that's going to change some things. They're also shortening the portal window a little bit. Now, one of the reasons that they moved the signing date up was for that reason, right? Because you had so many coaches out there that were having to chase high school recruiting, junior college recruiting, portal recruiting. So we're going to get portal and JUCO recruiting settled the first week in December. And then you're going to have the rest of the month to just focus on portal recruiting. Now, this is one of the things that the member schools wanted. They got it. So you get an earlier signing date, which changes your recruiting calendar. And now what's going to be interesting too is for the teams that are in the playoff, right? And so if you're in the playoff, you may be somewhere different every weekend. And so if you're one of these higher seeds, are you going to have an opportunity to host visitors when you're away playing a game? You leave out on Friday, you play a game on Saturday, you come back on Sunday, right? And so is somebody going to come visit your campus while you're gone? Do you leave some staff behind? You leave some student workers or somebody like that, or maybe an administrative person to lead somebody to a visit. And so it kind of complicates that too. And no matter when we do this kind of stuff, somebody somewhere is going to be impeded. The teams that benefit of the December visits are going to be the teams not participating in the playoff, right? And you look at it, that's probably one of those things that kind of creates some parity too, right? Is you have more opportunities to visit and have your coaches on campus during the official visit weekends, and you can make those weekend visits all about your portal prospects. Now, there will be some midweek visits, and you're getting a lot of that now. Guys are having to cram a handful of visits into a short period of time, because by the time you get through with Thanksgiving, you've got a month to figure out where we're going to go, how we're going to move there. We got to find an apartment. And so there aren't too many situations where it goes down to the last minute. So a lot of times players will take 2 to 3 visits a week. It's not just limited to weekends. And so you get a chance to come in and spend a little time, but it's not the same as the weekend visit, right? You have the weekend visit, everybody's out having a good time, right? You get a couple steak dinners, you dance with some pretty girls. It's good work if you can get it. When you got to do it in the midweek and those coaches are caught up in meetings and things like that, they're trying to go win a ball game, and your coaches and the teams that are not performing in the playoffs will have more time. And so that's an interesting change, and it's going to be interesting to see what's next. I mean, they keep talking about moving the early signing date up. And if they're going to do that, then you're probably going to have to allow more official visits in the summer. And really right now, July is like the only month of the year that the coaches around the country have time to kind of take their kids to Disney, that sort of stuff. It's just kind of how things are, man. I mean, we are making more demands on college coaches today than we ever have before, ever. I mean, in the history of the game. Roster management is more challenging than ever, because you never know from one year to the next who's going to be here, whether they have eligibility or not. There's some people that are going to like to go in the portal. And so you may feel like, okay, hey, we got to go out and get 3 defensive backs this year. And then all of a sudden the portal opens up and 2 of your young guys leave. Now all of a sudden we got to get 5. And things change. And if you don't think you're going to miss when you got to take that many guys in one personnel group, you're kidding yourself. Because not everybody's going to want to come. Because you may get 3 guys from the portal, and then some young guys are like, well, I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to play. I'll just go somewhere else. And so that's an important aspect of this. You're recruiting your own players to stay. You're recruiting players in the portal to come. You're still working the high school ranks and the junior college ranks. And then in the middle of all that, too, you've got coaches taking other jobs. And, the crazy thing about this coaching carousel, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. What jobs are going to come open this year? And I don't just mean in the Southeastern Conference, but nationally. But when you look around our league, you kind of begin to ask yourself a little bit, is it going to be a crazy year? Because what happens is all of a sudden a guy gets a job, he got to get coordinators, right? And so maybe he doesn't bring his guys with him. There's a new coach hired every year, right? And so you may lose a coordinator. You may lose a position coach that becomes, a coordinator somewhere else. And so when I look at this SEC standings right now, football, all right, well, Mike Elko just got there at A&M. Just got there. So they're not going to make a change. And that was a disaster of a coaching search, but it ended up kind of being the guy that a lot of people thought was going to be initially. And Mark Stoops did sign an MOU with him. And then it was nixed. LSU, 4-1 overall, only 1-0 in the conference. We'll talk about this on Friday's show, but a lot of people are thinking they're going to beat Ole Miss this weekend. And then it'd be 5-1. Is LSU a playoff team this year? I don't know that I believe that, but I still think they'll do enough for Brian Kelly to keep his job. Texas, Sark's got it rolling. Number one team in the country. No change there. Sam Pittman, 4-2 right now. And I still think they're probably a 6-6 team. You drop a game you're not expected to, you're probably looking at 5-7. And yes, I understand they beat Tennessee last week, but when you look at what they have on the road coming up, it could be awfully interesting. Could be. But so Sam's seat may not be hot, but I think it's still warm. Georgia, obviously no change there. Alabama just hired Kalen DeBoer last year. Florida's 3-2, staring 5-7, 4-8 right in the face. And I think Scott will have to make a change there. Does that impact Ole Miss? Does he go and get Lane Kiffin? I mean, Scott Strickland and Lane Kiffin, that would be an interesting marriage. But Scott's got to find a winner, right? And let's be honest, Lane Kiffin has done better than most Mississippi State people expected, including myself. So unless Lane Kiffin leaves to go to Florida, or leaves to take a job like that, I think he's there. Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz had the big year last year. They're 4-1 now. I would say no worse than 8-4 this year. And even if you go 7-5, they're not getting rid of that guy. Oklahoma, Venables, that could get interesting, Oklahoma hadn't really been Oklahoma for a while. So that's something to watch there. Oklahoma has a big budget, obviously. They can afford to pay a big buyout. But if they go in the tank down the stretch, and obviously this weekend is big. The Red River Shootout for the first time as a Southeastern Conference game. That's kind of a novel concept, right? And so that's something to watch. Well, Hype's not getting fired at Tennessee. They got it rolling. Clark Lee, I think, has probably already done enough to save his job because there's enough signals that things are moving in the right direction. And let's be honest about this. Vanderbilt should be 4-1. They blew it against Georgia State. Kentucky, Stoops signed a big extension in the offseason. He's not going anywhere. Shane Beamer at South Carolina, that's another one that we'll watch. He and Sam Pittman both kind of entered the year on the hot seat. Shane still got some games left to play. They didn't show up last week. I know. It wasn't a complete blowout, but it wasn't. Ole Miss was never challenged in that game, and that's a home game. And give Ole Miss some credit too for bouncing back after that Kentucky game. They didn't overlook South Carolina. Of course, Mississippi State's not making a change. It's year 2 with Hugh Freeze at Auburn, and I think he's a coach that's been pretty well established that he has been a winner, even though things have not gone great the first 2 years. I think it's pretty certain he gets another year. And so I think when you look around our league here, I think max, worst case scenario, you get three openings. Now, of course, again, if Kiffin decides to jump, and I don't expect that, that could be a 4th one, but Florida's a big-time job. Oklahoma's a big-time job. South Carolina's kind of middle of the pack. They get good, great fan support. I don't know that they get the support of the administration and the Board of Regents perhaps like they should. Probably more so in football than other sports. They've really become like a football and a women's basketball school. They have been. And you have to give Dawn Staley a lot of credit for what she's built there. It is what it is. But I start thinking about this too. What about next year? Is next year going to be a good year to hire a football coach if you're in a Southeastern Conference? I mean, you got some guys that kind of got it rolling pretty good here, but I think for the most part, we're going to see some stability for a couple of years. And John Cohen has never been a guy that's been reluctant to fire anybody. When John knows it's not going to work, he'll make a move. But, unless Auburn goes like 3-9, I don't think there's any question that Hugh Freeze is back next year. But what about next year? That's when you start thinking about it. And so if you're Oklahoma and you think about, kind of what you want to be and what you have been, and if this season goes in a tank again, and what always happens, man, is, donors get involved. They don't make the call, but they certainly influence the call a little bit. And, Venables was a guy that everybody had to have. He was going to be the guy. And so they go 6-7, then 10-3, and they're 4-1 now. And I still think they're a 7-5 type team. So I think he's probably safe this year. But if they go in the tank with Texas playing the way that they are, could be a different scenario. I don't think they make a move this year. I don't think they do unless it just really, really goes south. But it's so interesting to me to kind of think about that, because the crazy season impacts all of us. Because then all of a sudden, you got to go hang on to what you got. You got to make sure that other people aren't leaving you. You got to make sure that you have some stability on your staff. And so all of that's kind of going on. The silly season with the coaching carousel, portal visiting season, but I think in many respects too, if you think about what happens with these kids, right? We're moving the signing period up to early December, and what if their coach gets fired, right before the signing period? Well, now you got to figure that out. It's a changing time. It is, and at some point things will settle. But right now it feels like we're just kind of being, thrown to and fro by the wind. We're out there just kind of floating like a cork in a wide open ocean where the land doesn't seem to be in sight. But, perhaps maybe this Super Football Conference will provide some clarity for us. And everything that I hear is that every SEC school will be a part of it. And it won't be a tiered level of revenue sharing. That everybody gets, why would we be a part of that? Why would we want to, cut our other schools down? Because that's the thing that you don't understand either. Football pays for everything, right? And so it's like, hey, well, it makes sense if Alabama's on TV more than, say, Vanderbilt. Well, we all depend on that SEC revenue to help fund other sports. Your softball team is paid for by your football team. Your volleyball team is paid for by your football team. And so if you put together a tiered system and all of a sudden, hey, well, since Vanderbilt or Mississippi State isn't on TV a whole lot and they're not producing a lot of bowl revenue, well, they're going to get less money from the league. Well, then that's not a good deal for us, And it's not a good deal for the Southeastern Conference because at some point we all take turns at being towards the bottom of the pile. But it will all work out and it'll all settle at some point. The thing that I always remind people is let your love and loyalty for Mississippi State drive your motivations. Don't get caught up in all the changing politics around college athletics. Love Mississippi State, support Mississippi State. Mississippi State will love you back. All right, let's get out of here. If you hadn't done so, you need to go visit us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook, as I've shared. If you call Dana at 662-268-7601 and you want to float Monday through Thursday, for your very first float, we'll do it for $45. That's half off the regular price. A float is typically $89. We'll let you go for $45, but you have to call her and mention you heard about it on the Boneyard. And even if you're buying it for somebody else, that's cool too. Just let her know, hey, I want to buy that. I want to pay for this float for this friend of mine that needs it. And I heard about it on the Boneyard. But Monday through Thursday, you can float for $45. First-time floaters only. Just trying to provide the service for you. Because there's so many people that aren't sure what to expect. And the fun part for me is like when I see like mom has come and she's brought her daughter, and then dad comes along too because it's supposed to be a family event. And he's sitting there and he's kind of like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And he's the first guy out the door when they're finished. He looks at me and like, man, that was amazing. I can't believe it. So if you're a person that suffers from anxiety or stress, and we all do in some respects, or you've got some aches and pains, perhaps we can help you too. Come be a part of our floating family at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. Again, 662-268-7601. And you can download the True Rest app and visit us at truerest.com for more information. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.